And
Okay,
just
so
like
we're
that,
good.
and
Yes.
just like that, we are good to go.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
All
yeah, because
right.
it's taken some time, I'd say. Okay.
All right. So, welcome to episode 20 of Truth Hour, and we're going to focus this week on the inauguration 2021, the looming impeachment trial in the Senate. What is a filibuster, and what's the likelihood that the Senate will have a reconciliation vote to pretty much end the filibuster? Is it time to end the filibuster? And we'll finish up with a look at some of President Biden's executive orders. Is it weird for you to say President Biden still?
Yeah, I mean, so today was my first time actually having the opportunity to write President Biden. So that felt,
Yeah.
oh, I don't have to put elect in there. And then I had said it the other day, the first time when I was recording a video, I was like, he's really the president, So
Yeah.
it's, I think so much, like, there's a lot that comes with that in terms of just how the past week has been, seeing him do the press, like do press briefings, and even with the new White House like press secretary. I don't know. It's like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. To
It's yeah.
listen to competent individuals who care about presenting factual information. It's new. It's something that we had not grown accustomed to.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't actually used it yet in class. Maybe I have. It's just hearing it, listening to the news, or walking the dog, listening to podcasts. Like, oh, President Biden. Okay, I'll get used to this. I much prefer this to the former. But yeah, no, it'll grow on me.
Yeah.
Before we continue, I just want to acknowledge that a year ago we lost a legend, a man that for anyone that knows me, knows that I just idolize Kobe Bryant. Got a tattoo as soon as I learned of his passing. But I mean, really growing up, because if you think about like the age, with the exception of my father, and I've written about this, with the exception of my father, Kobe Bryant was really a person that I truly admired. And I think we lost not just a sports legend, but an individual who showed us what it means to put your whole heart into something. So just been honoring him really all day. And I hope folks just pay tribute. And if you're not familiar with his work, just look him up and watch some of his interviews, and you can't help but just kind of fall in love with the man.
Yeah.
All right. So
No. Go ahead. No, I'm good. I mean,
okay. All right.
You can't really show. Yeah, I was gonna say you can't really show them the tattoo you have, because I mean, you're like,
no, I'm not derobing.
Yeah.
But
yeah, but his tattoo is pretty cool, though. I will say.
All right. So the last week, it's funny. It was early when we were talking a couple of days ago. I had to ask, is like, wait a minute, have we had a show since the inauguration? I feel like we've lived a couple lifetimes in 2021 already, and the year is only 2.5, 3 weeks old. The inauguration was just last week, and it feels like for some reason that it happened a long time ago. But
I would just say it's because there's been so much that's happened in only 3. Is this the 4th week of the month?
No, 3rd week. January 20. I mean,
no, this is the 4th. Yeah,
4th week.
4th week. Yes, but still, like, just 3. Even I did think it went by so fast, and then so many things happened this month. So when Cliff asked me that, I'm like, wait, we have not had a show since the inauguration. But yeah, so carry on though, because this is gonna get interesting.
I mean, the biggest moment for me, I thought I was going to be able to hold it together, and I was in different group chats, and it was like the moment when I just couldn't hold back anymore was when Vice President Kamala Harris was sworn in. And that was special for a number of reasons. Just the to be able to put on display Black excellence, for a Black woman to be elevated to the second highest position in our country's government, to see a lawyer, a prosecutor, a former attorney general, a senator, a person who was clearly deserving of an opportunity to serve in this capacity. It hit me just thinking about my sisters, and all of the Black women I know that just put in so much time and oftentimes overlooked for kind of white counterparts. And I'm just excited to see what she does. I mean, you already know my gripes with the administration so far and positions and cabinet picks, but outside of having that kind of analytical political discussion, I was just moved. It's weird because I was watching, I was like, I'm going to be fine. And in that moment, it just hit me and just kind of started flooding down. It's like, oh my gosh, this is real. I can enjoy this. She's vice president, and now we still need to hold her accountable. So it was kind of both of those at the same time.
Yeah. And I would say, so the Sunday, not this Sunday, but the last Sunday, when they aired the interview between her and Abby Phillips, that just gave me a deeper appreciation for her. So if anyone doesn't know her story, or not just like her upbringing, but just who she is and the things that she's done, and not only in the state of California, but just what she stands for. It was so touching. And then 3 days later, we had the inauguration, and yeah, that moment, because I felt like she was getting choked up and then tried to, compose herself. But yeah, I'm like, wow, this is a huge moment. We've seen in other countries, we've seen women, we've seen female presidents, right? But in the United States, we've never seen that, nor have we ever seen a woman of color, a Black woman, a South Asian woman. And then too, with parents that are immigrants, it's just, there's so many layers to it. And then just thinking about everything that she had to overcome in terms of her, just the way that she moved up the ladder in the state of California. I was just blown away. And then even for me, the other part where I was like, okay, this day is like just very emotional, was when President Joe Biden, when he went to hug his family, and all I could think about was his son. And then I just thought back to that the funeral. It was, man, it's a lot, because I just really felt like these are, at least how they appear, again, because everyone's human, but they're genuinely good people that really care. And I know we'll talk about his speech soon, but yeah, it was a lot. It was good. It was good.
Yeah, I mean, they are. It's easy to kind of gravitate to them just seeing them on the camera. And also what I thought you were going to acknowledge. You can't really see her in this picture, but so if you see this, kind of all you can see really is the back of I'm using my mouse as if they can see what's on my screen, but I'm like, it's like I'm on Zoom. I was pointing with the mouse, but they can't see my screen. Anyhow, so Kamala Harris is being sworn in by Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor, who is the first Latinx justice to serve on the Supreme Court. So I think that was done intentionally, because typically the Chief Justice will swear in both VP and president, but I think she wanted to make a statement, not just to have a woman, but a woman of color, the first Latinx woman to serve on the court that was appointed by President Obama, or not. And so that was also, to me, what made that moment that much more special.
It did.
Go ahead. We also heard from future Mrs. Mason, Amanda Gorman.
Y'all need to get him.
The National Youth Poet Laureate. I mean, the poem was amazing. The poem was amazing. And sadly, I had never heard of her before.
Mm.
Had you followed her work before the inauguration?
So I knew of her, but I had like, I mean, of course, like most other people, now you're like Googling, you're trying to read all of her other, poems and stuff. So I knew of her, but I was not familiar, like familiar with her work. And so it's interesting because we had the conversation about, okay, but she's 22. She's 22, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's 22, and so when you keep hearing them mention her title, like National Youth Poet Laureate, how do you say it?
Poet laureate.
Laureate, right? And so I kept thinking, how old is she? Why does she have that title? And so did some research. So apparently there's a competition that takes place every year, and you actually have to be, looks like you have to be nominated. There's certain organizations that are allowed to throw names in, like recommendations, and you also have had to have won and been recognized within your region. So they have it set up, I believe it's in 4 regions. So it's like Northeast, Southeast, West. Sorry, getting a call. Sorry. Then they have, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. So they have Northeast, Southeast, then they have West Coast, and there's another. And then, so the West Coast, I guess, is split up also, in 2. So she actually plays them. So they pick 5 finalists, and and then what happens from there is that then, I believe, Library of Congress, they actually pick from those 5 finalists who will win. And so with that, you've then provided a stipend, and then you go around and you do like a national tour, and you're citing different poems. And what's interesting about this is that they actually focus on civic engagement, your contributions to your community. And so it's made up of people who really are engaged, so like on social issues, and are talking about ways in which they can give back and help, and help society. So it's really interesting. But yeah, so she holds that title until she moves along. Because I'm pretty sure she's going to have, I'm going to say it, she will definitely have bigger titles than this. She's amazing.
The pre-sales for her book skyrocketed. Is what she posted online.
Yeah,
The Hill We Climb. Yeah. So actually, I think it's going to be her debut. This is going to be her debut book, and it's a compilation of poems, like similar to, like, if you think of like a Claudia Rankine, right? It's going to be a compilation. The Hill We Climb, which is the one she read, is going to be the title of her book. But it's interesting because she said she had, like, I guess maybe she had, I think, amended it after January 6th,
right?
And that's when a lot of this came to her. But I want to know 2 lines that stick out for me. It's like, we, the successors of a country in a time where a skinny Black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And then she goes on, and she goes on to say, we seek harm none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true, that even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we'll never again know defeat, but because we'll never again sow division. I mean, she's I mean, mega talented. And it was I mean, she kind of stole the show, because usually it's the newly presidents and the newly sworn in president's show. But there was much less talk in the 48 hours following the inauguration of Joe Biden's speech, which was we'll get to, right? It was I mean, fairly kind of center left, let's come together, whereas she kind of just, I think, blew the doors off. I mean, she said herself she couldn't get into her own Instagram because there were just notification. She couldn't get her on her own phone. So I can imagine. Yeah.
The line. So I'll just say, because that stanza, or that line, those lines that you read, Those
Yeah.
stood out to me, but also the very end where she says, "For there is always light if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it." And what was interesting, like I was blown away at the end. I was just like screaming and clapping. You know, I'm in here by myself watching, but you know, and
Yeah.
then you have tears. And so a few hours later, she does an interview with Anderson Cooper, and she talked about that very last line that she struggled she struggled with, you know, deciding if she would keep both of those lines in at the end, if she would only pick one or like pick one of the two. And so she said that she decided to keep both. And I'm like, that it was such a strong finish. I mean,
Yeah.
all the way through, it was. I really appreciated that. That, I mean, hands down. I know that typically, you know, we talk about the music performances, which we'll talk about that in a moment. But to me, that goes down in history as like one of the best. Like, if they're looking ever at doing that again, by far, that was one of the best. That was one of the best performances. And what I like too is that we actually saw someone. We saw a young Black female up there doing her thing in spoken word, because I do think that that is one of the art forms that is not appreciated so much. And so I thought that was really interesting too, that they allowed that moment. And just in case anybody didn't know this, Dr. Jill Biden, our first lady, she's the one that selected her.
Oh, I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, she recommended her. Mm-hmm.
She's been on her game. Did you watch so when they walk through the rotunda of the Capitol and they acknowledge the painting, she essentially helped out. I think it was McCarthy. I think Kevin McCarthy. She helped decide what painting. It was a Black artist from the Civil War era, so from the 1860s. As a Black artist, and I was like, and Dr. Biden had selected that, and it's like, man, okay, she knows what she's doing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So go back to these images. Now, Shonda and I got into it because we disagree on. I think you agree that she had a good performance.
Okay, so who he has on the screen, you guys. So for the people on Instagram, who he has on here right now is Lady Gaga. Okay, so Lady Gaga performed the national anthem. Now, I love me. Yeah, okay. I love me some Gaga. All right. I just want to set the record straight. She even follows me on Instagram. On Twitter. Yeah, we'll talk about that another time. But I remember how excited I was for that. Anyways, love her. Now, in terms of that being her best performance of the Star Spangled Banner, I didn't think it was the best. I personally feel as if her Super Bowl performance of that song by far was so much better. It was powerful, but I understand there's lots of emotions and you're trying to do something different. You're showing up to the inauguration. You have the world's attention. I thought it was still a great performance. But when Clip tried to tell me it was like one of the, like he said, the best, I had to stop him because y'all already know. My girl is Whitney. I don't play that. Whitney Houston. But
I didn't say it was the best.
But that's what I was hearing at first. And I was like, whoa, we will not disrespect Whitney. So
for folks.
But I'll let you set the record straight.
For folks not privy to the entirety of the conversation, what I said was the best singing of the national anthem was done by Whitney Houston, and we may not see a duplication of that in our lifetimes. However, this version, because she put her own, the rendition that she did was a non-traditional version of the song, and I appreciated this version more than anyone that I had ever seen. She changed somewhat of the cadence, the way she turned and acknowledged the flag as she sang the last verse. I thought the spin that she put on the anthem was nothing like I had seen. And I think vocally it was very strong. I thought it was an amazing performance, which we cannot say for J-Lo or well, you like Garth Brooks, but that's a...
Well, okay. So for you guys that are getting to know us, I love country music. I love country music. So I love me some Garth Brooks. So last night when Cliff tried to come for Garth, I had to let him know, no, we will not do that. We will not do that. Garth was good. Now, Garth, I was all like, okay. And then homeboy forgot that COVID was real, running around everywhere. So I was like,
trying to high five everybody.
I'm
Yeah.
like, sir, this is not normal times, nor is this is not your concert. But I mean, again, we're all human. He was excited. What can we say? But yeah, back to my girl J Lo. I love J Lo. So because again, I know some of you will watch this later. Love me some J Lo. However, me and some of my friends, we kept going back and forth. And it's interesting. And I just want people to understand this. The way that they advertise this, they just said all they were saying is J-Lo's will do a musical performance at the inauguration. They never said what song, but they just left. They continued to build it up that J-Lo is going to perform. And it's like, okay, first off, we know this isn't a concert, the inauguration. They are very strict about the time. So homegirl's not putting on a Super Bowl performance, nor is she putting on a Vegas show.
Yeah.
It's cold out here. All right. And yeah, this is not the stage for that. So I already had limited expectations, or I'm going to say I leveled my expectations for what she would perform. That was not okay. I mean, the song, I had a conversation with my mom about it. Song choice for her, it kept her within her lane. I'll say that in terms of voice range. Okay, I'm just saying that's what I mean by lane, everyone. But I felt like we could have had somebody else in terms of what they were trying to convey. Because I still, like I told Cliff, I do believe it was political. The words that she's saying from the song, and then that moment they were trying to have someone Latinx, and so I in terms of being like inclusive and discussing like immigration, like we know that was also a nod to like immigration. I kind of felt as if we could have used somebody else. That's just me. What did you think, Cliff?
No, I mean, I thought that, of course, it was political, and I think they wanted a woman. I think they wanted a Latinx woman, and she fit the bill. And if we think about J-Lo in the past 12 months, I mean, she's got one of the most show-stopping performances, really, of all time. I mean, her and Shakira at the Super Bowl was, I mean...
It was not... Okay, hold up.
Wait, what did I miss?
In terms of performances, it was good, but I mean, it wasn't better than Beyonce. And I'm not even the Beyonce stans. But
okay, so I'm glad you're gonna bring in Beyonce. We might lose some followers because what I'm about to say is gonna upset.
Yeah, I would say, don't you try to even come for Beyonce.
J-Lo and Beyonce. Well, we can say this about J-Lo and Beyonce.
I'm listening because Homegirl was not even singing live.
What we can say about J-Lo and Beyonce is. No one has ever put them in a category of elite vocalists. We think of those two as entertainers.
We do.
J-Lo's not Fantasia. I mean, neither is Beyonce, right?
Whoa.
Neither one of them.
Beyonce. Whoa. Ooh,
Beyonce is an amazing entertainer, but she doesn't have the vocal range of some of these elite singers.
I mean, of course, she's not J Hud or Whitney, but
exactly, that's all I'm saying. So Beehive, you can try to come for me, but I'm being very clear on what I'm saying. She's an entertainer that doesn't have the vocal range of some of these other singers. Period. That's all I'm saying. So, like when we knew that J-Lo was coming out, it was like, oh, okay, it's clearly trying to make a nod to a certain demographic because she's not going to come out here and be Patti LaBelle. She's going to be J-Lo. But it's going to be entertaining. But then it's the inauguration. So how entertaining can it be? And then it's like you look and it's like, okay, she wore a nice outfit and she didn't sing terribly, but she didn't even sing average. It was about a little bit below average.
Yeah, I think
performance.
Right. And she didn't try to do too much. And I guess my thing is with Gaga, the reason why I felt like, man, I wish she just went a little bit more for it. is because we know her range, and I felt as if she held back a little bit. But that's what I'm saying. It wasn't that her performance was horrible. I just wish she would have brought more of herself to.
So you thought Gaga was holding back, and that's why you
were.
Yeah,
absolutely. But J-Lo, I think that she needed to do what she did. Like, don't try to do all this extra stuff. Don't try to do all this extra stuff. And I just want you to know real quick, the Beehive they are about to come for you, Cliff.
I'm sorry, the facts are facts.
Homegirl, Cliff, but she's
not Aretha Franklin. She's Beyonce.
No, we know that. But but to say that she can't sing. Or so are you? Wait, what's this? Okay. But hold on. But are you saying that she doesn't have a range?
I'm saying she doesn't have that range. When we think of,
we know that. We know that. But, okay, we know that. But to put her, I don't think that you could even compare J-Lo and Beyonce. I don't, because
I don't know if I did. All I did was say that
when I'm saying like we're making the comparison.
Entertainers. I think the comparison is they're amazing entertainers, but neither of them are elite in essentially what they're known for. They're known for singing. Unless you're older, if you're my age, you remember J-Lo as a fly girl. You like J-Lo as a dancer. But it's like, okay, so like of what they do, they're not elite. They're just they can put so many things together. Like Chris Brown. Is there a better singer dancer than Chris Brown? Like right now, I don't know. Yeah. Not saying all the time. I'd go to Michael Jackson, but like now, is there one better than Chris Brown? I don't know. But again, Chris Brown's not Neo or John Legend. I'm gonna move on.
Yeah, I think you should move on.
And we got Kieran's over here talking about we love country. Nobody loves country but you and Shonda.
Who? Oh, okay. Well, I like that person. Whoever said that. Can we show the comments? Oh, I'm telling y'all. I don't see that. Oh, I don't see that. But appreciate that. Mm-hmm.
And so we also had. I know you wanted to talk about.
Oh my goodness.
First lady.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. You guys. I felt like a serious I felt like a fangirl. I was over here like, oh my God, I'm screaming at the TV. Okay, you would have. I was really having a moment, like just from when she first entered the Capitol. I'm like, oh my goodness. When she stepped out the vehicle, and I'm like, Michelle. Then I felt like the guy, like I've been seeing all these things, and you're like, Michelle, like it was a whole moment. I'm like, look, Obama, you know I love you, but Michelle Obama, hands down. I mean, shout out to her hairstylist and whoever stylist.
She had a design that outfit.
Yeah, and then her hairstylist is a Black woman. That lives in DC, has a hair salon. She's been doing Michelle Obama's hair for years, but man, oh man, I said, now see this right here. I said, you can't be doing stuff like this, because to me already, I was like, ooh, she kind of already stole the show.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just watching. I was more watching Obama's walk, because it's like, imagine walking into a place holding her hand. He kind of had a little dip to him, because it was like, you walking in with Michelle looking like this. Like he had an extra little bounce to his step. It wasn't just because his former VP was being sworn in. It was because she's holding my hand. Like anyone that was watching Obama, like okay, you know what that is. Like okay, I see you. All right. Yeah,
I love them.
that was good. All right, where am I? I got so many pictures.
Yes, well, because I'm looking at the time. So let's.
Oh, is it time to?
We might want to.
Filibuster.
Well, is there any other big? Well, I guess what I will say before we go to that, in terms of the overall inauguration, like just inauguration day, I'm definitely happy that people were safe. And that. So, one, that people were safe. I really thought that Joe Biden's speech. Maybe we'll talk about that later. We didn't talk about that. But I know. Sorry, y'all. I mean. Clearly, we're not going to be those people, like just focusing on the other things. But by far in terms of his inaugural address, and I'll talk about post I'll talk about the evening stuff later, but what were your thoughts on his speech, Cliff?
So if you remember, we prefaced the inauguration the week before with, in terms of Joe Biden as an orator, we shouldn't expect fireworks. But this might have been Joe Biden's best oratory performance of his life. I mean, Joe Biden, I don't consider to be an inspirational figure. I don't know if I've ever put the words Joe Biden and inspirational in the same sentence.
You definitely haven't, just knowing you.
But that speech he had the energy. I don't know if he got his B12 shot. I mean, he had the energy. He was focused. What got me when I hit up the group chat, it was he actually named white supremacy in the speech, and I was like, oh, this might be a little different. Okay, even Obama didn't go there, and so
he couldn't.
He names that. That's true. Obama couldn't. He names that, and then he goes on and he's saying we are going to be committed to ending systemic racism. And I'm thinking, well, you're not going to really end it, but it's ambitious, right?
Yes. Yes, I hear that. I'm gonna let you go, and then I'll say my piece.
No, this is the last thing because I'm interested to hear your perspective. But I thought, to me, what it's like, okay, this all sounds good, but I hope he doesn't, because he spent the bulk of the latter half of the speech talking about the country being unified. And to me, I wish he would have said these words: there can't be unity without accountability. And I hope, for the sake of unity, there's not an ignoring or a glossing over or whitewashing of what we witnessed the past 4 years. I think there needs to be a continued naming of the vitriol that we had to endure, because there does need to be accountability in order to move forward.
But don't you think, okay, so to that, I would say that he took the first step by actually naming it. I feel like that's part of what we're asking for in terms of not glossing over what the past 4 years were. But
the bare minimum.
No, but I'm saying, like, he had limited time, right? I get what you're saying. Yes, that would have been great if he would have went further. But I have to remember where we are, right? So I don't think that this is the last time, or at least I'm hoping that that's not the last time that we hear him saying it again, because the more you start to call these things out, and then people actually will begin to recognize, like, oh, that's what this is. Because apparently folks didn't know what microaggressions were until last summer. Hard to believe, but I'm just saying. Okay, but the point I'm trying to make is that you have to constantly repeat these things. And so in terms of holding people accountable, the only way to hold them accountable now is in the actions that you begin to take. So with him being, our new president and having this administration, that means that it will take them to show us what that looks like in terms of holding people accountable, and not just say, because again, it was great that he used his platform that day. You had the entire world's attention, and you said racism, you said white supremacy, you said racial justice, you talked about systemic racism. I mean, look, he had all the key words, but the key thing that you're mentioning is accountability. And so to see what will actually take place over these next few weeks, because what I am tired of, I don't know if y'all are listening. If you are, good, because you need to hear this. Republicans, they've been talking about this. Okay. If in fact you were part of the group that helped incite this insurrection, you should be held accountable. And I also think that Congress, they need to hold individuals accountable, because you would no longer have people winning elections that are QAnon affiliated or running with certain groups. It's like it's time for our policies to catch up with technology. So I mean, they vet us like for jobs. So why are you not vetting these candidates? I mean, there should not be one of your colleagues should not help. They should not be able to help other people create a whole coup. Like, I mean, bringing violence and almost, I mean, they what really could have been more harm that should not be allowed. And so I just don't understand why no one's pushing back against them. And it's frustrating because I'm just thinking to myself, would we actually do that if this were your children? I guess people, you have to talk about the most precious thing, right? With your children. So would you really be okay with something like that? If somebody, like, if you knowingly had information, I'm tired of all this like fake news stuff. No, there's videos. We have the people on camera. We have the text. So are you telling me that if you knew someone was trying to bring a bomb or something to your child's school and the keys were given to these individuals by school officials or by the principal, are you really telling me you'd be okay with this principal staying on, like, just doing their daily job? No, I don't think you would. So, I mean, yeah, they need to have a better vetting process, and they need to change the laws in terms of who actually is able to serve in these positions and get these people out of here. Because I'm tired.
Yeah, but the problem is there's not a lot of mechanisms. There's not a lot of mechanisms that exist to remove them, right? Other than extreme.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, so right now,
voting or some pretty extreme measures for like very egregious acts. And for Republicans, bringing a firearm onto the floor of the House of Representatives does not suffice or is not considered an extreme act. I'm going to put this quote up from Grace. Biden, yeah, he was good, and it was freezing. So I didn't have a lot of bones to pick with the speech. I wish he talked about accountability, but besides that, I thought the speech was great, and it was shockingly inspirational.
Yeah, and the one thing I will add, I was talking to someone else about this. I thought that his speech was by far, like you said, it was probably one of the best speeches he's ever given. It was better than the night that they announced his win in Delaware. It was better.
For sure. But that's I wouldn't imagine the emotional toll. I think it makes sense that those would be very different.
I'm sorry. Speeches. Let me ask you a question. Do you remember President Obama's acceptance speech the night of his election?
Yeah, but do we remember his first inaugural speech, which was trash? So, I mean.
Okay. But the point I'm making is that I still think that that speech could have been more. It's like, it was great. But okay, so we're gonna move on for later that night, because I want to acknowledge something that I think this administration is doing, like things that they're doing very well. So a few people, including Cliff, did not watch the concert that evening. And I thought it was actually really cool, because being someone that did go to the inauguration for President Obama. 2013. So it was for the 2012 election. Yeah. So I went to the ball. I went to inaugural events.
Oh, you never told me about the ball. You've been to the ball?
Not the ball. There's so many balls.
Well, there's like 4.
Yeah. But I'm saying, I went to some of these events. Amazing experience, right? But the thing is, so they talked about a little bit about this. So what was different this time is that in the evening, everyone normally is glued to their screens. You're looking to see like, oh, I want to see like the fashion. You want to see, celebrities, or you want to see politicians talking to them. It's this whole thing. But what it does, it excludes like certain people from being allowed to be in those rooms. And then it's also another way for lobbyists and people to pour money into policies, right? So what we didn't have this year which is a great thing. We didn't have any of that. So there's like no outside influence in terms of what could actually take place in the next few months. Not saying that people still aren't doing things behind closed doors, but I thought it was actually a great way to show some new traditions. And so they did put together they had like a concert. It was like, I forget the name of it was, but it was a concert for everyone. And Joe Biden and Kamala, they both actually gave a speech. And so what was interesting is a lot of people didn't realize this, that Kamala wouldn't give a speech at the inauguration. Maybe, and I mean, again, I know not everyone watches every 4 years.
Every year. Yeah.
But and you typically don't hear from the vice president the day of the inauguration, because it's all about of course, the administration, but it's mainly about the president. And so I commended President Biden because he actually allowed Kamala to be heard. She had a speech that night at the Lincoln Memorial. It was amazing. I appreciated that.
That's awesome. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk. I had no idea you'd been to one of those balls. That's like glitz and glam. Now I see how you had to move to Hollywood.
Okay. I'm still not there yet. Don't get excited.
Last image of the inauguration that just took the internet by storm was of Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders literally sitting down, and people went out of their minds.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Y'all need to leave him alone.
I'm actually exhausted with the memes, and I will not shed a tear if I never see another Sanders mittens meme. That's just me.
Okay. Good. Okay.
So the filibuster in the Senate is going to be the bane of Chuck Schumer's existence unless the Dems vote to end the filibuster, which essentially, for folks curious if they heard the term, not exactly sure. So essentially, like traditionally, a filibuster would allow, because the Senate has unlimited debate on certain pieces of legislation. Traditionally, senators will stand up and occupy the time just by making it an extra long speech, one after the other, so long that it actually prevents them from being able to vote on the legislation. I mean, if you recall, like in modern history, Ted Cruz read Dr. Seuss, or was it? Maybe it was. I think it was Ted Cruz read Dr. Seuss. You have Ron Paul reading some nonsense, I think from a book his dad wrote, and so you have consistent folks who are hoping to. Let me read this. Okay. Oh goodness. A little bit behind schedule. You have you have senators who have a political agenda trying to thwart the progress of this body from acting. And so essentially, the filibuster can work in those two ways. It can either be a senator occupying so much time on the floor that they can't vote on it, or they can just say, you know what, we're not going to vote on this. And it essentially has a 60 vote threshold in a body of 100 people, where the Constitution only requires what number of those 100 to pass a law? 51.
Yeah.
And so the debate is, should the Democrats just buck the tradition and decide it's time for us to act? We have a mandate from the nation of constituents, and we're not going to be dictated to by this 60 vote threshold. And my answer to that is yeah. But the problem is, like, realistically, so do you think realistically or practically they're going to be able to end the filibuster?
I don't think so. I don't. Just seeing. Okay, we're only 6 days. Tomorrow is a week that we've had a new administration, and outside of those 6 days before the new administration was sworn in, we've already seen the actions of the Republican senators this month since the insurrection. So I don't feel as if you'd be able to swing that, I mean, a few of them over in order for that to pass. And also, too, just thinking about, so the problem, I think also, too, I don't know if all the Dems would be in favor of it, right? Because we've seen, because in some ways we've seen how it's one of those things where, you know, now you want to do away with the filibuster because you have control, but then when you was on the other hand, you would have loved to have the filibuster. So it's hard. Yeah, but I personally, just seeing how there are, just thinking about the whole impeachment, like what happened today with the vote, I don't see it happening. What about you?
Yeah, my problem is the Democrats are spineless, and it's tough to really bite your tongue on that reality because their political rivals have used these types of tactics to pass their agenda. Because in order to pass Trump's tax bill, right? That's
what I was thinking.
That tax plan for the rich. Mm-hmm. They just voted. They passed a reconciliation vote for it to be majority. No filibuster. To pass Trump's emergency use for the building of a wall on our southern border, they just had a reconciliation vote. So there was just majority. They didn't have filibuster. So to me, it's like, why are the Democrats not willing to fight with the same ammunition? I mean, they're showing up to a gunfight with a paperclip. I mean, it's stupid.
Yeah, and I feel like we're wasting time, like doing that. Like you said, exert the same power. I mean, do what everyone else has been doing. Like, I just think that it's a waste of time and energy to have this whole discussion right now about the filibuster.
And the difference is they're using the Republicans have used the filibuster for arguably very selfish and craven purposes, whereas the legislation that we're talking about using the filibuster, like eliminating the filibuster for, is COVID relief packages.
Yeah.
It's for things that are essentially going to help the majority of the people. Right. And so when you have Democrats, I can refer to them as dinos, Democrats in name only, like Joe Manchin in West Virginia, Kirsten Sinema in Arizona. Really, those are going to be the two votes that hold it up. So if you want to know why Democrats aren't going to be able to end the filibuster, look no further than Arizona's Kirsten Sinema and West Virginia's Joe Manchin. Period. Yeah. They're the reason. And so switch parties, because if you don't support COVID relief packages, like if you think you should have to have 60 votes for COVID relief packages, what are you doing?
Right. Some of these people, they have to go. And that's a conversation probably for another week. We could talk about some of these folks, but I mean, I'm sure we'll be having this conversation about those same two senators as we enter the impeachment land, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was actually cheering for Joe Manchin's Republican rival in 2018. I was hoping Joe Manchin lost because he's been this type of Democrat for the past 12 years. And to me, if you're not going to uphold democratic values, then don't run on a Democratic platform.
Yeah, but that would be a lot.
I like this quote. Yeah, they're trying to take the high road, but right now the high road doesn't really lead to anywhere. Nor do I think the high road really exists in that particular branch of the Congress. I don't see it. So I mean, because you have individuals who are going to be arbiters in this impeachment trial, who were really co-conspirators in the insurrection, and so you have that level of corruption. And I hope folks aren't confused when if they listen to conservative media and they hear them talking about Chief Justice John Roberts not presiding over the trial. Typically, Chief Justices, like in history, they don't preside when the individual being tried for impeachment is not currently occupying that office. So that's going to be a talking point that you're going to hear repeated. They're also going to say that it's unconstitutional. They're going to say it's unconstitutional to impeach a former president. That's false. And then there's like a lot of history, both in the 18th, 19th centuries that indicate that no, it's our actual precedent that this is the process. Because otherwise, if you couldn't impeach them, they would just commit all types of crimes against the state in their waning days, and there'd be nothing you could do about it. So you're going to hear a lot of the same repeated talking points. You're going to hear those clowns on Fox News repeat the same nonsense. But I hope you aren't influenced by it. All right. Now the moment of truth. Are you ready to transition to executive orders?
I am, because I'm just like, yeah, I don't want to get started on that whole other thing. So
President, I wanted to call him Vice President. President Biden has been busy these first couple days.
Mm-hmm.
Signing executive order after executive order after executive order, and the reason for that is because he had a goal of trying to really reverse a lot of the kind of the evil that his predecessor had implemented, whether it's bans against Muslims entering the country or bans against trans Americans from serving actively in our military. There was a lot that Biden felt that he needed to do through executive action. The only problem, like we talked about in my government class with executive action, is executive actions can be upended by the next executive because it doesn't have the same permanent force of law as something passed through both bodies of Congress, right? But still, so he's signed executive actions with environmental protections. You want to read some of this from the list, or?
Yeah, we can read some of them. Well, you already mentioned like two of the big ones that just happened in terms of him reversing the executive order for transgenders not to be able to serve in the military. Yeah, I mean, and even the fact that like individuals being able to enter from like majority Muslim countries.
Yeah.
That it's sad that still had been implemented the entire time, right? And I remember they had added on countries at one point after, because he did that within his first week, right? Or first few days.
The Muslim ban was very early in his.
It was very early. Yeah. And so it all, I don't know. In a way, it sucks like having to look at these because you're just like, wow, this is sad that this is where we are as a country. But I'm also happy that there will be relief for a lot of other people, especially in terms of what he was doing for, I don't have it up, but do you have the information for the immigration? Okay. Yeah. So he revised the immigration enforcement policies. I think that's definitely something that needed. I definitely think that's something that needs to be addressed. And he ended the construction of the border wall. I know that one was in there.
That was a day one.
Yeah.
I can read the immigration one if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the executive order revising immigration enforcement policies, and this is a revocation of Trump's crackdown on communities that shielded undocumented immigrants from deportation. Biden vowed to protect national and border security, but also address the humanitarian challenges at the southern border.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then the other part of that not the other part, because I guess it's a separate, but there was an executive order incorporating undocumented immigrants into the census. And
counted into the
right. And so I mean, not sure how many people were following this, but there was a lot that the previous administration did to try and exclude them, and then to not have an accurate account. Because what it comes down to with the census, this is built off of how you have your district set up for congressional races, but then also it's too the money that's allocated to these areas, in terms of federal funding. But
Mhm.
so I hope a lot of people that are watching, they all took the census. But
Yes, we had. Yeah, I think we were like weekly hitting that before it was the deadline. He signed an executive order that focused on the climate crisis and canceled the Keystone XL pipeline. That was a big one. Big. An executive order requiring mask wearing on federal property. So because he's a president, he can determine what happens in the states. But this does have a force of national. Essentially, it's a national enforcement effort because there are federal sites and properties across the country, and within those properties, you have to be wearing a mask. And it's like, it's crazy that he would have to implement that now, but that's where we are.
Right. But then also too, as they were saying, it's sending a message as well in terms of masks need to be mandated, so if in fact your governor is one of those governors like not, emphasizing that. Go ahead.
He actually expanded the federal government. Folks may not know this. So an executive order coordinating a government-wide COVID-19 response. And essentially what that did was created a position of COVID-19 response coordinator. And that individual will advise Biden and oversee the distribution of vaccines, tests, and supplies related to COVID-19. So that's technically an expansion of the federal government, but I imagine that'll be temporary once this thing gets under control in about 4 years.
So I know he also paused like federal student loan payments.
No, he didn't sign that.
Yeah, it says he requested an extension on the freeze of federal student loan payments.
That's very. You didn't say that.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, not stop them. People.
I was about to say, wait a minute. That's what we want him to do. He has not done that. Nor he's not. That's not going to happen.
Maybe I'm speaking that. Excuse me.
You over here projecting.
Yes. Well, yes. Excuse me. Yes. And then there was something else. Didn't he do something for the moratoriums for was it for the rent or utilities, or is that something that they're still discussing?
You can't be evicted. So he extended that non-eviction. Pausing federal student loan payments. I see what you're okay. Where else are we? There was another. Oh, he signed one today, which I want to hear more information about. I can't speak to it. Sorry, folks. But apparently he signed one about ending private prisons, and I'm like, well, wait a minute. What does that mean? Are they going to transfer these individuals, or is it just like federal contracts? Can states still utilize private prisons? Like, I really want to know what that means and like what the details of that. But they're not in the articles that I saw, because I think that just happened like a few hours before we were.
Oh, okay.
But I'm interested to hear about that one.
Yeah, I'm like, that's pretty big. So, yes, the one that I do think so. There's been some reports out, and so I'm not going to be on here right now arguing the validity of the data, but part of one of the executive orders, this is in lieu of the executive order he signed, supporting the reopening and continue operation of schools, if it is, safe and they're, to do in-person learning. We can get into that next week talking about the vaccinations, but it's interesting that the data that they were showing, I was watching CNN earlier, and they had nodded to a study that they had followed from 17 schools, and they only mentioned Wisconsin, so I'm hoping that wasn't the only area they used, because like you should diversify a bit and go into other states. And I mean, only focusing on rural communities, I think that's a bit different than like urban areas and just the dynamics there. So, but I know we only have like less than a minute. So,
okay.
Yeah.
Executive order promoting a Buy American agenda to bolster American manufacturing. He wants to call for, here we go. In order to end reliance on private prisons, not to renew so they're not going to renew the contracts of private prisons.
Oh, okay.
That's not far enough for me, but okay, because you can close them, or you can just you can immediately just pay whatever the fee would be for breaking that contract. What would it be?
But then not only that, but in your 4 years, if these private prisons, if the renew, you know what I mean, like that doesn't go far enough.
So he just signed this one.
Okay.
Today. An executive order. Last one. This is
Yes.
important.
Okay.
Executive order denouncing anti-Asian discrimination and xenophobia. And this is a response to a surge in anti-Asian biases as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. So he's urged the Department of Health and Human Services to consider issuing guidance on cultural competency and sensitivity towards Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders as part of the COVID-19 national response.
Wow.
That's brilliant. Good. Yeah, I had no idea he signed that today. So this is.
Yeah, there was something. We'll talk more about some of the executive orders next week, everyone, because there were some other things he did for racial equity as well.
Oh, I missed comments.
Gender equity. Yeah.
I'm not posting
we really appreciate everyone tuning in, and hope to see you next week.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.